So welcome to another mailbag, the second one of today, I might add. Remember, these are questions and comments that you guys leave on the channel, so before we get started on this section of mailbag, we are going to go over the parish notices, which are, why haven't you subscribed? Hit the subscribe icon. If you want to be notified about when content like this is published to the channel, it's the bell icon you want to click. Consider supporting the channel. A small donation goes a very long way. Go over to patreon.com. That's www.patreon.com/the Music Cat Guy. You may get your name in lights. Look at my Instagram and Facebook feeds. That's where all the other shenanigans of the channel go. And remember, we're still in COVID-19 lockdown. Well, kind of, which is stay alert, stay safe, and wash the old pinkies. So now we go back to the video. As I said before, with this mailbag section, it's all about the ZENCore, what the hell is ZENCore video I did in October last year, October 2019. And all the comments that I had on that particular video that I'm trying to just sort of answer all you guys. So the next one from Philip Ford, and he says, well, I signed up for the 30-day trial. It is impressive, but it is, to me, like having a huge ROMpler. Fantastic, works like a dream, but it is similar to just having a massive library of available sounds. Nice to have the JV 1080 back again. Not sure I keep it after the free period, but installation and setup were trouble-free, and it plays nicely with my Ableton Live DAW. It does actually. The Roland cloud stuff does seem to very nicely integrate into ZENCore, into Ableton Live. I have to be honest and say it does for me as well. Not that I can say I'm actually really using it. But thanks for the feedback on the Roland cloud. It's nice to hear somebody else's experiences. There are definitely a number of functioning VSTs. And under the revised cost models, I think it said in the video in the last set, it's sort of £30 a year to get going for the basic Zenology synth, and then you can start buying synths as opposed to the ultimate £200 per annum to give you access to everything. But that's £200 per annum. You just might want to keep one or two of the classics and dump the rest. That's entirely up to you. But I'm not going to repeat my comments on VSTs. If these can't play them, then it's kind of not really my scene. The next one comes from Avoidance Protocol. And he or she writes, the different ZENCore based devices appear to be different, mostly by what hardware interface is provided to interact with the core engine, the Phantom, keyboard, and performance focus with touchscreen to interact with the engine. Lots of outputs, higher price. The MC707, pad and sequencer focus, lower price. The Jupiter XXM emulation of the past, one target in the studio, the other more for mobile. The ZENCore architecture in each appears to be able to handle 3 different digital sound sources. Uses samples PCM and samples with curated loop points, and a single cycle waveforms for virtual analog emulation. They treat each as an oscillator and therefore can have a filter and other processing and shaping applied after the sound chain. One engine to support them all. It's like one ring to support them all, really, isn't it? As time has moved on, I think we're all, as I said before, we're all sort of gaining more understanding. The tones are generated here and passed to the engine. That kind of is what definitely everybody seems to be starting to move towards. And the interface for the users to interact with those particular tones. In terms of user waves and loops, my understanding is as long as these conform to the criteria of the whole ZENCore piece, then effectively and in essence they're treated exactly the same way as a stock Roland PCM sample. I'm kind of waiting for the next device to be issued, to be honest, because Roland have made these bold statements with the groove boxes, the Jupiter and the Phantom. And I'm hoping that this is not one of those Roland flash in the pans where we all go running out to buy these bits of equipment, only to find out that Roland has disappeared up another Roland cul-de-sac promising so much and not following through once we've all invested in the technology. I just have that nagging feeling, and I really want Roland to actually move forward with this kind of technology stack, because I kind of invested in ACB. I bought System 1, I bought System 8, I have a TR8, etc., etc. And I'm a bit upset, quite upset actually, that we haven't really moved those platforms forward like I would have expected them to be moved forward. I'm going to get this name wrong. I know I am. Next one comes from Aviron Music, and it looks like it's sort of kind of Germanish. And he writes, LA-ZENCore. This is a simple an audio interface like any other quality external USB audio interface, such as a Roland Rubix 44, a 24-bit AD DA conversion on a 44.1, 44.8 PCM to wave output, and on top of it, it's basic DSP audio filters. You can play all the soft synths from the Roland Cloud on your PC with an external USB or internal audio interface. Well, Decibel T2L modeling is 10 times more powerful. 24, I think that means bits, not nits. 48 kilohertz linear and 32 bits, 48 kilohertz DSP floating than LA-ZENCore, but they still do not do synth yet. Now, I guess at a raw and simplistic level, that kind of is the basis of ZENCore, yes. Or any other synth generation of this type, so anything else that's kind of using this sort of kind of mechanism. Really the art of the manufacturer is how does the synth model the signal processing. ZENCore is a software-driven emulation of the original instrument function, so I can see how, once they've developed the ZENCore piece, how you can sort of move that onto a PC, because all you need to do is really just sort of move the engine in software. You don't necessarily need the hardware. But the problem is how efficient is the VST, and how much processing power do you require to actually run multiple VSTs on your machine. I mean, I've got to be honest and say, I moved to Apple. I mean, this is my Apple machine. It's just sitting just off camera, and I'm actually reading my script off of my laptop. But I moved to an Apple platform because Windows just kind of struggled. I had a Windows 10 laptop, and it really struggled with two VSTs open and a door open. You got lots of latency and lag, and working in the software industry, I know all about this. Microsoft, the way that their platform is developed in a separate way, where you have lots of things loaded into memory at the point of loading the operating system, whereas things like Apple, which is pretty much a Linux operating system at the end of the day, only load what you need. Okay, so it's a different principle in terms of how the operating system. So the Apple operating system tends to be leaner, and therefore it can cope with a lot more environmental stuff than Windows can. On the flip side, there's more software developed for Windows than there is for Apple. But in the music and photography and video industries, Apple seems to be a better platform for doing this stuff. Anyway, that was me. The other side of this I see is I thought that the C-Lake audio approach is a great idea, building on sort of kind of the Muse receptor stuff, and I've done videos on both these platforms in the past. I'm not sure you can run Roland VSTs on the C-Lake platform. It would be interesting for somebody to sort of comment and say you can or you can't. I do see C-Lake have just ported their platform to Windows 10. So, I do see a viable future for something like this, but it depends on whether it's really sort of taken into the fold. Muse receptor was used by lots of people. Lots of quite famous artists use Muse receptor. only for Muse to effectively drop support for the platform because it was too difficult for them to maintain. They'd driven themselves up a technology cul-de-sac in the way that they actually implemented the receptor. Sea Lake have gone a slightly different way. They haven't got embedded Linux. It is run on a standard Windows 10 platform. They've just stripped out all the rubbish that you don't need. So we shall see. It's interesting you mentioned Dexable actually, because that is a really interesting and maybe something I want to sort of do more videos on, the whole sort of Dexabel thing. They have a system called T2L, which is quite rightly what you called out, which stands for True to Life. Modern engine, and it seems to be a good proposition with some good sound packs available for it, and a supported editor. What I haven't seen with Dexabel, if I'm brutally honest, is I haven't seen. I don't know anyone who's selling it for starters. I will try and find someone and see if I can go and actually have a play with the system. But it does come with these sound packs and a fully supported editor that is provided by Dexabel, which seems to be actually fairly usable compared with some of them, to be honest. One of the features, it was kind of one of the what I liked about the Dexabel system is this sort of, they have a keyboard and you can load your sounds into the keyboard, and then you unplug from the computer world completely, and you can basically put the keyboard in a bag and go and gig with all the sounds that you've loaded onto that keyboard. And that was kind of one of the features I liked about the whole original System 8 concept. Not that I'm going to be going and gigging it, but I just like the concept. The Dexabel Vio portable keyboard is definitely around this, and I think it's a Vio Pro 7, I think is the actual correct name. But as I say, it doesn't seem to have really taken off, and they haven't got any sort of, they haven't mirrored, if you like, a DX7 and a Rhodes and a this and a that. They've got some very good sound packs, but they haven't got those specific names and mirrorings against them. But I guess Roland's unique selling point, or its USP, just to sort of use an acronym here, is its heritage tones and patches that it's able to bring to the table. I think we need to find out how Cloud 2 is going to fare, the VSTs and the into the original engines. I found the VSTs for the original Roland stuff really quite heavy on processing power, and that to me was an issue. If Roland have managed to sort of streamline the way they've coded the VSTs so that it actually makes more sense and lessens the amount of processing required, I think Roland and the Cloud will probably go far. But I'd like to see some other decent manufacturers jump into this space personally. I think everyone's dabbling, but nobody's really sort of committing. The Roland Cloud is more of a commitment, but we shall see. So the last one of this ZENCore marathon, if you like, is from Florida Hiker, and he or she says LA became JV, JV became XV, XV became Supernatural, became ZENCore. Each one better. The Roland's popularity is because their synthesizers sound so good. The Jupiter X is going to be a monster. I think I said in the video, the ZENCore video, I can't remember whether it was in this one or it was another one on ZENCore, that the technology was recycled. And it does originate from the digital LA synthesis using the D series back in the 80s. That's kind of what Roland have done, is they've evolved this model. But you state the progression quite nicely there, so I don't have to restate the progression of how you get from LA to ZENCore. I'm still making my mind up on the Jupiter X, I have to be honest. I know I said earlier on it sounds like a good idea, but I'm still making my mind up. But I will give them their due, Roland. The Phantom, while it's not a Kronos, and I don't think it's going to kill the Kronos, I do think they've got some solid ideas in there. And I do like some of the way they've implemented some of the stuff in the Phantom that Korg possibly can't do with the Kronos currently. I'm not saying they couldn't do it if they rewrote some of the Kronos code, but I think, you know, the way the Kronos is set up at the moment, I'm not sure that Korg can match some of that. But I do like some of the real-time, while playing, editing capabilities that Phantom brings to the table. So that's really good, and I think it does put a really big marker on Korg's high-end, do it all, do it well workstation concept, because I do think it does put a marker there. I would say Korg really has had that kind of market sewn up for the last 15 years, if I'm honest. It started with the Oasis, and even though the Oasis wasn't a magic success for Korg, the whole concept of the Oasis and this open architecture synthesis, which they came up with, really was solid. And yes, they re-architected it for Kronos, but it still works in pretty much the same idea, which is underlying is a very powerful computer, which runs a stripped-down Linux core engine that they then overlaid the Korg sound engines on top of. I think the secret that Roland will need to emulate is that of the original Kronos is still supported. So when I started looking at buying a Kronos, it was somewhere around 2011 when the Kronos was launched, and I didn't buy my Kronos, if I'm honest, until 2014. Right, I bought Kronos 2. So by that point in time, Kronos had gone from Kronos to Kronos X to Kronos 2. It might have been 2015 actually. And I bought a Mark II. I kind of kept going, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to buy it. And then they released the X, and I thought, well, I'm going to go and buy the X then. And then they released the 2. And they've released a number of other kind of variants of the 2 since. But one of the key things that Korg have done with the Kronos is they've not cut adrift the people who originally purchased the Kronos. Okay? So whether you've got a Kronos X, or a Kronos 2, you can still upgrade the operating system to the latest operating system, and you can download pretty much all of the sound packs for each one of those keyboards. Yes, the 2 is more powerful than the X, and the X is more powerful than the Kronos, because they upgraded the hardware inside the boards as they went. But the bottom line is they still support from day dot to now. And that's something that I think has been severely lacking in other manufacturers.